The chapter begins with two angels arriving in Sodom in the evening. Lot, who was sitting at the city gate, saw them and immediately recognized their significance. Just as Abraham had shown hospitality to his visitors, Lot insisted that the two angels stay at his house. Initially, the angels declined, saying they would stay in the town square, but Lot pressed them and they eventually agreed to go with him. As they settled into Lot's home, Genesis 19 paints a vivid picture of the depravity of the city's residents. Men from every part of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded Lot's house and demanded that he send out the two visitors so they could abuse them. Lot went out to plead with the men, even offering his own daughters in an attempt to protect his guests. However, the crowd's wickedness only intensified, and they threatened Lot, accusing him of judging them. This scene captures the extreme moral corruption of Sodom. The men's intentions reflect hearts that had turned away from God, embracing violence, injustice, and perversion. Their actions echo Paul's description in Romans 1 verses 18 to 23 of people who, although they knew God, neither glorified him nor gave thanks. Their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, exchanging the glory of God for images and sinful desires. This deliberate rejection of God leads to degradation of the human mind and behavior, resulting in moral and spiritual decay, just as seen in Sodom. As the men of Sodom tried to force their way into Lot's home, the two angels intervened. They struck the men with blindness, causing them to stumble around aimlessly. Then they turned to Lot and warned him of the imminent destruction of the city, instructing him to gather his family and leave immediately. Lot went to his sons-in-law to warn them, but they thought he was joking. Despite the urgency of the situation, only Lot, his wife, and his two daughters heeded the angel's warning. Even then, Lot hesitated. The angels, recognizing the imminent danger, seized Lot, his wife, and his daughters by the hands and led them out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. The urgency of the angels' actions emphasizes the magnitude of the danger and the necessity of swift obedience. Lot and his family were explicitly warned not to look back or stop anywhere in the plain but to flee to the mountains to escape the destruction. As Lot and his family fled, God rained down fire and sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah, destroying not only the cities but also the entire plain, including the vegetation. The destruction was complete, and only the small town of Zoar was spared, as Lot had pleaded for it. However, in their flight, Lot's wife disobeyed the warning and looked back at the burning city. In doing so, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Her fate serves as a stark warning against longing for or being attached to the sinful ways of the world when God calls us to flee. Applications: the call to stand for righteousness in a corrupt world. Lot's position at the city gate and his hospitality toward the angels show that he was aware of the moral decline around him, yet chose to extend protection and kindness to the visitors. This application teaches us that, even in a society steeped in corruption and immorality, we are called to uphold righteousness and be a light. It encourages believers to live in a way that reflects God's standards, even when surrounded by widespread sin and degradation. The consequences of ignoring God's warnings. The response of Lot's sons-in-law, who dismissed his warning as a joke, serves as a powerful reminder that ignoring God's urgent calls to repentance and change has serious consequences. This application challenges us to take God's warnings seriously and to recognize the importance of spiritual discernment. It urges us to respond promptly to His guidance and calls to action, knowing that delay or disbelief can lead to devastating outcomes. The importance of swift obedience to God's instructions. Lot's hesitation and the angel's urgent intervention underscore the need for immediate action when God instructs us to move. This application emphasizes that when God calls us to leave behind sin and pursue His will, we must act without hesitation. Delayed obedience can put us and those we love at risk. This teaches us that God's commands are given for our protection, and that swift obedience is crucial to experiencing His deliverance and mercy. The dangers of attachment to the world. Lot's wife's choice to look back at Sodom despite the angel's warning is a powerful symbol of longing for the sinful past. Her transformation into a pillar of salt illustrates the consequences of being attached to the world and its ways when God calls us to move forward in faith. This application serves as a caution to believers about the danger of holding on to past sins, habits, or worldly desires. It reminds us that true commitment to God requires letting go of anything that hinders our relationship with Him and obeying His call without looking back. God's mercy amidst judgment. The narrative highlights that while God's judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah was severe, His mercy toward Lot and his family was profound. Despite their hesitation, the angels seized their hands and led them out because the Lord was merciful to them. This application shows that God's mercy reaches out to save us, even when we falter in our faith or delay in our response. It reassures us that God's compassion is available, but we must be willing to accept it and follow His direction to safety and salvation.